The best way to make your game interactable for a player is with feedbacks. A feedback is when you put something in, like a jump, and you get something back out, like a screen shake when you hit the ground. Without feedbacks, our game can seem boring and uninteresting. For example, when your player jumps, it would be nice to have some dust come out of his feet when he hits the ground. When he dashes, wouldn't it be cool to have some kind of particle effect? What about when you dash past objects in your environment? Could they move? Today we're going to quickly set up some feedbacks for our player controllers. I'm going to continue to build off the Bolt 2D Platform Tutorial Asset Pack, which you can get in the link below. If you need help setting up other functions, I've got other tutorial videos for that as well. We're not going to go through an extensive list of feedbacks in this video. Blackthorn Prod did a video on feedbacks, which I think is an excellent place to start if you need some ideas. For now, let's put some feedback in our game. In order to set up these feedbacks, we're going to need a few particle effects using some simple sprites. I'm not going to show you how I did this since there are literally millions of videos on YouTube on how to make particle effects. Blackthorn Prod's video that I put in the description should help get you started. I will, however, show you the two sprites that I used for these. So I used the ring and I used the dust. Okay, to get dust particles to come out of our feet, first we're going to need that particle. Again, you can make that on your own. Follow lots of videos online. But when we hit the ground, we need to instantiate that object. So what we're going to do is we're just going to use a macro that I actually already have set up, courtesy of, I think it was One Wheel Studio helped me get this one. He doesn't know it, but he did. Going into function macros, on collision with, and we're going to, if you don't have one of these, this is that macro. You can just look at that, pause the video, and you should be able to put that together by yourself. And I'm not going to explain what it does because I explain it in a different video. So on collision with platforms, I think that is yeah, that's the tag. Platform, not platforms. Platform, that's the tag I have set up with this platform. And then I'm going to run that into another flow machine. So let's go ahead and make another flow machine under player macros, and let's call this ground. So, or we'll call it platform. When we hit platform, or hit platform. Let's do that. Hit platform. Okay, so in the hit platform, we're going to need a input, or an input, and we're going to need a control input because it's going to have an input flow. So let's add that. And next, what we're going to need is we're going to need to instantiate an object. Instantiate object, original position, rotation, and so the rotation is just going to be set to 0. So just get whatever that is called. I can't tell you what that is called, but that's just for the rotation. And on our position, what we're going to need is let's say get position. Nope. Position, transform position, get. Yeah, there we go. Transform position, get. And we want to subtract, so we don't want it coming out of the middle of our character. We want it to come out a little bit below, or at its feet. So you might have to experiment with a little bit to know exactly how much to subtract. But we are going to subtract, and from that, we're going to subtract maybe, let's say 1. You might have to play around with that a little bit. And what we're going to need to instantiate is that particle system that we installed or that we set up. So you set that up on your own. Mine is called dust particles. So I'm going to go ahead and set that up. And so now when we press play, whoop, we forgot one thing. Let's go back to our player controller, and we need to put in hit platform right here. So now, fingers crossed, when we test this, when our player lands, there should be a little puff of smoke that comes out from underneath it. Yep, there we go. Okay, for the ring particle effect, for when the player dashes, I actually went and followed on a tutorial online. I'll put that in the description so you can do this very same thing. I just used that particle, that glow ring sprite that I showed you from earlier, and I made one of these. And so I like the bottom one better than I like the top one for some reason. So this is what I'm actually going to be instantiating whenever the player dashes. A good little note just to make sure whenever you set up your particle effects, When it says stop action, unless it's something that sits there and loops over and over again, I have that set to destroy to make sure that my game doesn't fill up with particle effects. So when it's done playing, it'll destroy itself. Also on this object, I have it set up with a circle collider. I don't think you need the rigid body on that, so I'm going to go ahead and remove that. I think I just have the circle collider. You know what? I think you actually do need that for when I make the trees move, which I'll show you that in just a second. But let's go ahead and delete that out of our scene. And when we go into our player controller, let's see, macros, player controller, when we dash, I think it's actually here in our player states. When we dash, we want to instantiate that ring. Because the player dashes in a direction, we actually are going to have to lead this particle effect to get the desired result. So in order to do that, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to set up a true-false statement where we're running off of this variable, this can dash variable, at the end of our player state dash function. We're going to say, so let's do a branch. And if, so we're going to get our movement. Oh, that's not the right one. I need direction, sorry. We set up a variable, get variable in our player controller for direction, and we use that again here, so we can use it here in this particular part. Let's see if I can go back and find that direction right there. So we can use that graph variable for direction. We set that earlier on, right up here, to figure out which direction we're facing. So we're going to do the same thing on our particle effect for our dash. So, oops, sorry, we need a if this is greater than it's greater than 0, meaning we're facing to the right. We're on the x-axis on the positive side, and we're going to need this to instantiate this particle effect. The very same thing that we did for the dust is very similar to what we're doing here. Instantiate object, position, rotation. I think you call it a quaternion. I might be wrong there. You have to correct me. So we're going to add 3 on the x, this is positive, to our location. So add unit transform position get. Okay, and we're going to add 3 to our current position to the right, and let's test it out and see if it works. Okay, it's not going to work because I forgot to set my prefab up. So let's see, what did I call that thing? Dust. No, that's dust. You know what? Let me go over here to macros. Where did I put that? Prefabs, particles, ripple effect 1. Put that in there and let's see if that works. It works to the right, but not to the left. And if you'll notice, the player kind of bumps into it because it's putting it in front of him. And so in order to fix that, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to go to our project settings, and under the physics 2D, let's take the player off of that particle layer so that they can go through each other without any problems. So let's check that and see if that worked. Yeah, there we go. All right, so that's good. Now we just need it to the left. So the way to set up the left is we're just going to do this exact same thing, except for we're going to subtract 3 from the x. So on false, so let's copy and paste that, bring that down here, and on the false, we're going to do that. Let's see if that works. I think I forgot to put in 3 negative. So -3 there. Okay, I have it to the right, and I had it to the left. Perfect. Okay, just to give you a quick idea on how we can have our dash actually interact with our environment. Whenever we press play, I just have a very simple animation set up on this. Right now you can't actually even see it animating, but whenever I run past it, you should see that it wiggles just when I dash. How I did that is I set up, I went on our tree prefab. So under the tree, And this doesn't have to be plugged in anywhere. It's going to call it whenever the tree comes in contact with anything on the dash layer, which that particle I actually have on a dash layer. So when it comes in contact with it, this is an on trigger enter macro that we have. It's very simple to set up. I'm just going to let you see a picture there. You can pause the video if you want to know how to set that up. But when it interacts with that, what I have is I had set the dash on the animator bool. So on the tree, I should have a parameter on that called dash, and it's going to set that to true. And whenever it sets to true, it runs from idle to shuffle, and whenever it's done running that animation, it goes back. So that's the way that I have that set up. It's very simple. Again, the player just instantiates that dash, and whenever the particle effect happens, you can have it interact with your environment. So we have our dash set up with instantiating particles. We have when we jump up and down on the ground, the dust particles come out, and we have it. Our dash interacts with the objects around us. So hopefully we have a good start for implementing feedback in our games. Just a quick note, if when your particle effect is not interacting with a collision, make sure that you have some kind of rigid body and collider on that object. Otherwise, it will not set it off. So I've got actually a circle collider on that, and a rigid body 2D. And I believe on the tree objects, I have a blocks collider that's actually set to trigger. So the tree is what's looking for the particle effect. So if it's not working for you, that could be a good reason why. Okay, now we have some very simple feedbacks set up for our game. Again, this is just the beginning of what you can do with Unity and Bolt. But a little word of caution, sometimes you can go overboard. So hopefully this video was helpful for you. But wouldn't it be cool if maybe we could get a little screen shake whenever we wanted it? If only somebody made a tutorial video about how to do that.